Hello. All right, welcome everybody. My name is Commissioner Layla Bonneau. I serve Single Member District 1A01. I'm the co-chair of the ANC 1A's Public Safety Committee and really excited for this month's conversation where we've invited colleagues from the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement to come and meet with us, and we're really appreciative of that partnership. I'm gonna let my co-chair, Commissioner Wood, introduce himself. And then it would be great if we could pop around the Zoom squares and we'll have folks introduce themselves. If you can share kind of like, especially if you're a community member, like what's on your mind, what's bringing you to this meeting this evening in particular. And today's icebreaker is one thing you like to do to de-stress. Today is Mental Health Action Day, so I thought that could be a good thing for us to touch on as well. So we'll try to keep this kind of brief because I know we don't have Dana for too long, but Commissioner Wood.
Thanks so much, Commissioner Bonneau, and welcome everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. Really excited for this conversation. Commissioner Judson Wood, great to meet you all. I'm 1A06, co-chair with Commissioner Bonneau, live here in Columbia Heights near the Target. Let's see, what was the next one? One thing to de-stress, is that correct? So I like going to the gym or going for a long run. Actually just did one yesterday. Got a little ambitious, have a couple blisters, but it was great. So I will go ahead and popcorn over to Robin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Commissioner Robin Sandenberg from 1D02, which is Mount Pleasant across 16th Street. And actually, Eli McCarthy put us in touch with 1A because they've been doing some work on public safety, and we had been considering doing some alternatives to policing type of work. So it's great. It's great that you have this committee. We do not have a similar committee, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have been doing and what we might be able to take away from that. And I do yoga every day, and the pandemic has been great for that because you don't even have to leave your house with virtual yoga. So that's kept me sane, hopefully. Oh, and I will choose Leticia. Would you like to go next? And I have to say, now that everybody's wearing masks around their neck, I keep thinking everyone has neck injuries. So, but it's a mask. Go ahead.
Hello, how are you? My name is Leticia Costa. I'm the program coordinator for Collaborative Solutions Community for our ONCE contract. Something that I do for de-stress, listen to music. I will pass it over to Sitar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Satara Yell, and I'm the Strategy and Innovation Officer with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And to de-stress, I like to read, try to kind of mix it up with what I'm reading. So right now I'm reading a Swedish novel that's very escapism. And I will pass it over to my colleague, Keisha.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Keisha Barnes, and I'm the program manager here at the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, again, over the Violence Intervention Program. One thing I like to do to distress is shop, but it puts me in more stress, so eat cupcakes. I like cupcakes. I will pass it to my deputy, Director Dana McDaniel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Keisha, for that pass. And I would love if you could pass a cupcake as well. That'd be awesome. Thanks for having me, everyone. I'm Dana McDaniel, and I am the Deputy Director here for the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And please pardon the background. It is a toddler time. And thank you, Satara, for letting the team know. And unfortunately, I won't be able to stay long, but happy to be joining the group again. And one thing that I'd like to do to de-stress is Cabernet. If we, since it's adult hour, I'll take a Cabernet for 100 points, Alex. I'll popcorn it over to, let's see. I see a Margaret on the line.
Yes, thank you, Dana. Apologies for my background as well. I'm just getting some things taken care of. But I'm working with DC Peace Team, and I'm really happy to be included in these meetings. I've learned so much from everyone here, and it's really wonderful. We're working on like engaging with the community and kind of some initiatives surrounding public safety and alternatives to police. And I really love going on runs, but also my 30th birthday is on Saturday. So if anyone has good cupcake suggestions, please drop them in the chat. I'll popcorn it over to Eli.
All right, well, early happy birthday. Hi, everyone, wonderful to be with you. I'm also with the DC Peace Team, and we've kind of been working with the ANC here and been meeting with a number of groups in the Columbia Heights community about some of the conflict or violence that happens at Columbia Heights Plaza, and kind of exploring some possible options for having de-escalators or folks that can help kind of mitigate some of that. So we're looking forward to continuing that journey and getting to know many of you that seem to be doing a lot of great work. Let me pass it over to Allie.
Did you say Allie?
Yeah.
Thanks, Eli. Nice to meet you. My name is Allie. I'm the Deputy Director for Constituent Services for Councilmember Nadeau. I also cover public safety topics for her office, so including ones. And yeah, I'm also going to be probably in and out off camera because I announced earlier that I'm moving tomorrow, so I'm just kind of running around. But it's been a tough week, so I knew it was important to definitely join tonight. And something that de-stresses me, you know what, really, like this is the real truth. Reality television, it's like my one escape, true escape. I will pass it over to Bob.
Hey, Allie, it's nice to see you. It's been a little while. Thanks for being here. My name is Bob Schlehuber. I am a peace builder based here in Columbia Heights. I organize with MAM DC, Mutual Aid Movement DC. I also host a radio show, Political Misfits, on Radio Sputnik on 105.5 FM here, and have helped and supported Layla and Judson along with the other great ANC 1A folks in organizing the Public Safety Committee and the coalition that we built around this. I care deeply about these issues, especially in my own backyard. I think my thoughts, along with a lot of people, have been on Palestine this last week. And if I want peace in the world, I need to start with my own neighborhood. And so that's why I'm here tonight, to have these conversations, to build peace here, and hopefully that can ripple around the world. One thing I do to de-stress is hang out with my good friend Jason Clock at the dog park with him and Charlie, his little puppy. And so that's always been a good time running into Jason. So with that, I'll hand it off to Jason. Is Charlie there with you right now?
Indeed. Let me flip my camera around. So my name is Commissioner Jason Clark, 1A12. I'm actually just walking back into DC on 16th Street. So I'm just, yeah, Bob's been very helpful and everyone's been helpful in that in regards to the violence in our neighborhood. And I was saddened by more DC alerts this past week. So I hope we can get a handle on that. Thank you all for coming. To de-stress, I walk Charlie. However, Charlie has been finding every cicada, molt, and dead cicada and eats them all tonight. So it's been a struggle to walk back to DC. But thank you all very much. And let's see who else we can popcorn to. Oh, and Margaret, my birthday was last Saturday, so maybe we're a week apart. So let's see. Is that everybody? Did everybody go?
I think Commissioner Lehman Morales.
Oh, yes. Commissioner Morales, you're next.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everybody. My name is Dieter. I'm the commissioner for 1A02, just south of Commissioner Bonneau's district here in Columbia Heights. Looking forward to the conversation here tonight. Icebreaker. I like to go on my bike. I like to de-stress after work.
And Shakitha, I know you introduced yourself in the chat, but if you wanted to come off mute and say hi, you'd be welcome to.
Hi, my name is Shakitha Levy, and I am the Director of Communities for Collaborative Solutions for Communities. My de-stress is, I guess I have several, but I'll take the cupcakes and walking. Those are two things I enjoy doing also.
Thank you all so much. I think I want some Cabernet with a cupcake, like after I do some yoga. I could just have like a really great day based on all of these. Tomorrow's bike to work day, get some more biking in there. Well, thank you all for being here. And, I just want to echo, it's definitely been a tough week. My partner is the one that made the 911 call when we had a shooting on the 14th on our block. At 1 a.m. and saw the victim's car like come down our block. And I know being too specific can be traumatic for others, so I don't want to recount like too many details, but I'm sitting with that right now and just appreciate everybody's partnership. And I know there's been additional acts of violence across the city and within our ward and within our commission that Commissioner Clark mentioned earlier as well. So every time one of those alerts comes through, like that's another one of our neighbors. And just as we're going into summer, we know that this is, this may continue or may escalate. And so it's just a really challenging time. And Rose, you're back with us. Did you want to do an introduction?
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Yeah. I'm on Perry Place. I'm a long-term and dedicated to.
I think I don't know if it's just me, but I think your audio is cutting out, Rose.
Neighborhood. To work.
Rose, I don't know if you're on your computer or on your phone, but you might want to try rejoining the audio. It's a little bit, it's hard to hear you. You could also introduce yourself in the chat if you wanted to share who you are with the group.
Okay, I'll do that.
Oh, now your audio's clear, and I love that you're out in the back enjoying the weather.
Sorry, I'm a long-term resident of Columbia Heights. I love the neighborhood. I'm willing to work with groups and individuals on safety and community issues, and have a great stake in the success of all residents and visitors to Columbia Heights.
Thanks, Rose. I will put the agenda in the chat maybe one more time in case there were a couple other latecomers. And Commissioner Wood, would you mind reading our shared definition of public safety before we turn it over to
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
once office? Thanks.
All right. So this is how we define public safety. So we've defined public safety as a state of peace where communal culture and access to resources and spaces needed to feel secure, safe, and whole are centered. Whole in the sense of freedom of movement, freedom of expression, and freedom to live, so long as those expressions do not infringe on the abilities of others to do so. And with that,
Thanks,
Monica.
Commissioner. Appreciate that. It's on the agenda. I also dropped it in the chat if folks want to read that on their own as well. Just think it's an important grounding for our conversation. Like, what do we mean when we say public safety, and how are we centering this group? So we've had colleagues from the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement with us in the past, and I know that our commission submitted like oversight testimony about the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, and one of the elements in that letter was just asking for continued and increased partnership between our ANC and the community and the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And so really appreciative that you all are with us this evening and that we can continue and build on that partnership. And would love to hear from you all. You know, in the draft agenda, there were just like a couple of different questions around sort of as you reflect on like the recent, you know, the last 6 months or the last year, kind of whatever time frame you want to use. You know, what is the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement? What are some main like successes or work that you all are doing that you would want to make sure we're aware of? And then, you know, I alluded earlier that we have concerns around summer, and so just trying to look ahead to the next few months. What are the opportunities for us to continue to partner with you or be aware of the work that you all are doing and that of CSC? And would love if you were open to just open it up to like neighborhood questions as part of that as well. So I realize that was a lot. It's on the agenda. Kind of if you want to take that in a different order, that's fine as well. And I'm not sure if across the ONCE team you all have decided kind of if Dana's going to kick things off or somebody else, but we'll leave that to you all.
Thank you so much, Layla. I think that Dana, while you are here with us at the start of the call, maybe if you wanted to kick things off, that would be great. And then I have some more basic slides for those who are new to this conversation or new to the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. I can just quickly run you through our programs and services as an agency, and just a few slides on how we have been impacted by COVID and the programs and services that we have been able to offer over the past year. Does that work for you, Dana?
Yep, works fine. Thanks, Satara.
Okay, great. So I will just toss up a slide that just has an overview of our programs. And then Dana, whenever you want to hop in, go ahead.
Thanks, Satara. And sorry, guys, as you can hear, I have the toddler happening here in the background as well. I want to make sure I didn't miss the question I should be addressing right now.
So right now, it's really open to you all. So we've got folks with different levels of familiarity with the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. So we do want to answer that question, just hearing what you all do, but also like highlights of the work over the past year, what's to come over the summer, and if you all are open to neighbor questions and kind of how we can better partner together.
Dana, do you want me to start with slides or do you want to kick off?
Yeah, I think the overview side is a good start.
Perfect. All right, I'll go there first. Yeah. All right. I can't see the chat anymore, so can folks confirm that they can see this? Great.
Yep, just popped up.
Perfect, perfect. So just a little bit of level setting before we get into programs. I think as many of you may be aware, it sounds like there are a lot of advocates and folks who are very involved in peacemaking and in this dialogue on the call tonight. The past year was a really difficult year for the district, for the nation, and for our work in particular. DC did see an increase in homicides across the city. We were not alone in that regard. Most cities our size saw an increase. This is something that we actually shared during our testimony as well during our performance oversight hearing, just because sometimes it can feel to folks like we're very alone in this. But unfortunately, this is a crisis that we're dealing with nationwide in terms of gun violence and in terms of violent crime. In DC, what we found was that there were some changes in types of crime. As many folks are aware, there was an increase in carjackings. There was a decrease in robberies because largely because so many folks were home. And there was an increase in shootings, in gunshot victims, and in homicides. Within ones we closely track crime measures in each of our kind of priority service areas. And we obviously also look at district-wide statistics and ward-wide statistics as well to track trends and to, discover if there are kind of emerging hotspots that we need to refocus on. But, just level setting at the beginning that last year was incredibly difficult. It's very clear that the pandemic exacerbated some root causes of gun violence and of violent crime. Some of the groups and clients and populations that we work most closely with who are already impacted by poverty and by instability were further impacted by the pandemic in some pretty substantial ways. This data on this slide is actually from a report that Thomas Apt, who authored Bleeding Out, put out a couple months ago. And it's called Pandemic Social Unrest and Crime in U.S. Cities, and I can share the link in the chat if folks are interested in looking at that. But that is, that is an expert in terms of, criminologists that we turn to kind of understand trends nationwide as well. So with that in mind, despite the challenges of the past year and despite the real barriers the pandemic put into doing our work, which is so much relies on face-to-face communication and direct contact with individuals in the community, none of our programs actually stopped serving clients. For most of the pandemic, they have been kind of in normal operations or in a hybrid model with lots of safety precautions and safeguards in place. But I'll just turn it back to this slide with the programs and pass it to you, Dana, so you can give a kind of a quick overview of the programs under our purview and recent or exciting updates within each one of them.
Thank you, Satara, and I appreciate it. So we have several programs that touch our communities and engage particular populations within the community. Our first program and of most importance, especially to this call, is our Violence Intervention Initiative. And right now, our Violence Intervention Initiative, we contract with 3 different providers who provide what we abbreviate as VI services in wards 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we have boots on the ground violence interrupters, as well as case managers. We engage some of the most high-risk individuals in 20 of our highest risk communities. Our goal is to really develop prevention and intervention strategies that get in front of or appropriately respond to acts of violence to prevent retaliation, try to generate mediations and ceasefires to bring about peace in communities, as well as connect our highest risk individuals with services and supports that can help them transition to lives, leading more productive and safe lives. Our second program is our Family and Survivor Support Program. This is the program that responds to homicide families of homicide victims or to individuals who themselves have been victims of gun violence. As you can imagine, this division is very busy as we've seen an increase over the past months, and assist the family members or individuals with navigating through the systems that provide supports in the event of a homicide or a gun crime. So we do appreciate that unit. Our One's Leadership Academy is one of our newer programs. This is our school-based initiative where we work right now. We're in Anacostia High School. We just recently picked up H.D. Woodson High School as well as Paul Charter School, which is not too far from you guys, where we are engaging returning ninth graders who are severely at risk of being impacted with deficits in the ABCs: attendance, behavior, credits, or S for safety. So we have some in-school staff who help those youth with staying connected to their goals, as well as partnering with the CBO who we contract with to provide safe passage and engage the community that the school-based youth touch. Our next program is our community-based crime reduction. And this is a grant we currently have in the Buena Vista Terrace and Woodland communities, where we're providing health and wellness services to the residents there, especially teaching self-care, similar to our icebreaker today, and bringing resources and services and opportunities that the community wouldn't normally engage, centered around health and wellness. Our next program is our Pathways program, which is one of our flagship programs we're really proud of. And our Pathways program, we employ three cohorts. Hopefully we can eventually have 4 cohorts in a year. Each cohort has about 25 participants. These young gentlemen are referred, right now, they're primarily men, but we are open to female participants. Right now, primarily men are referred to us by CSOSA or our violence intervention interrupters who are on the ground, referring our highest risk individuals to attend our 9-week class, followed by a 6-month employment subsidy. This is one of our most enriching programs because it is very holistic, takes a wraparound approach. We have several vendors involved in our 9-week program: Community Wellness Ventures, who provides individual therapy and cognitive behavior therapy services, YAME, who provides life skills and workforce development. We also have a vendor who provides barbering services, as well as studio and audio production, where our individuals can receive certifications for future use. And then for 6 months, our participants are placed in subsidized employment with DC government, where they have the opportunity to hopefully be picked up for full-time employment. And in the meantime, our team works to help them identify full-time and unsubsidized employment. And then finally, our newest program is our restorative justice program, which was recently added several months ago. This program is a team of our restorative justice gurus who will work with all of the programs we have listed to provide some kind of restorative response. Each of our programs has individuals we encounter who have encountered some kind of trauma or harm, from family survivor support to violence intervention. So the RJ team will work with each program to implement some kind of restorative response to the populations we touch, as well as working within our communities who may reach out to us in need to identify some restorative or healing responses that the communities can employ to address gun violence or other issues that may be plaguing those communities. So those are our key 6 key programs. So we have several partners involved with these programs. For example, with Pathways, DYRS and DOES are our partners. With Violence Intervention Collaborative Solutions, who's joining us today, is one of our partners, or the partner serving your ward. So as you can see, ONES is growing and has a lot of programs where we're able to touch some of our most vulnerable people and places, and looking forward to continuing to partner. I think one of our key focuses is really to empower the community to address their issues themselves and have that capacity building and ability to self-sustain. So as things occur in communities, the communities know when to respond, how to respond, where to respond, and who to reach out to and who to connect with to help generate those responses. So I'll shift there to Satara unless there are any questions. I don't know if you guys wanted to hold questions for the end, but I'm open for those depending on how we want that done.
Yeah, I think,
I know.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Leila.
Sorry. I know, Dana, we don't have you for the whole time, so I'd be open to doing a couple questions now before we shift to Satara.
Sure, yeah, that'd be awesome. And that'd
Okay.
actually be a good segue for me as well, once I make sure I table any questions, and I can segue over to the team and wrap up from there myself.
Okay,
but
great.
I'm totally open if there are any questions.
folks are welcome to use the raise hand button down in Zoom, or take yourself off mute. You can also post a question in the chat and I'm happy to read it out.
I have a question. Anybody else?
Yep, Eli, go ahead.
So just one is, could you clarify which wards you have interrupters operating in, and what kind of training do they get in like de-escalation skills and intervention skills, communication skills, things like that?
Got it. And the first part of your question was how many are employed where, in general, or just in your ward?
What wards are the violent interrupters operating in that you're?
Oh, which wards? Yes, sir. We are in wards 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then in terms of training, our staff receive different levels of robust training. De-escalation is one, communication, coping skills. A lot of field safety trainings get centered around how to do those things and perform those duties in high-risk areas while safety is an issue. So mid-moment, how do you do that? How do you deal? How do you navigate? How do you de-escalate? Oftentimes, those de-escalations are a matter of life and death, quite frankly. So having a really high-level skill set or being able to intervene and determining what that looks like, when to do it, and how to do that. As a matter of fact, we have a boot camp training that one's recently finalized that we will be employing ourselves for our providers as well. That will really help us really finalize our model and what that looks like in terms of how we'd like to see the work consistently done in the field.
Thanks, Eli. Bob, I see your hand is up if you'd like to go next.
Yeah. Well, let me thank everybody from the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement for being with us. I always so impressed with this work, and the fact that our city takes it on with its own agency, I think is so vital to its success. And I also just want to acknowledge how I'm going to move as I talk with my internet. The stuff's it's just really hard work to be right at the forefront of violence at the tip of the spear and to engage with that. So thank you. And Layla, let me also say sorry for having to experience that last night. That sounds really scary, the shooting, and to be responsive to that. I wanted to just reflect or ask a little bit more about the training program that you guys do, because I'm just really impressed. It's, I think, a big part of the work we need to do is getting people jobs and to get people engaged with the community. So I have kind of, I guess, two questions. One, if you could just maybe reflect a little bit more on that job training.
Hey, Bob, your audio is a little low. If you want to just take a beat and then speak closer to the mic.
Sure. So I guess my training, on the question about training, two-part is one, what does that training look like and how much does it allow for flexibility for different people's physical and skills coming into the program? And then are you training them for certain types of jobs based on what, I guess? And then the second is, from our perspective, always as a community side, is how can we integrate them into community activities or community programming to help people feel more involved in the community in addition to the work?
No worries. Now, when you reference the training, which program are you?
I guess just general skill building. I guess more of the Pathways program, and to help people into. Yeah.
Yes. So for the Pathways, in terms of training, the Pathways, they do receive job skills, soft skills training for job skills like interview, communication, problem solving. The most of the training they receive is on the job when they are deployed to the 6-month subsidy with the DC government agency. So depending upon where they go, that training will be dependent upon the location. So if they go to DPW, they'll receive whatever trainings are relevant to that job, so on and so forth.
So they're working in different government agencies?
Yes, so they go to different agencies. They're DOES places them all over district government in different agencies, from MOCRS to DPW to DDOT, and other partners. And sometimes they're not agency partners. They may be different types of partners. Like I know Spin was one of our partners who was assisting as well. But DOES oversees that process and really has ownership over what that part looks like.
So if we know businesses, I mean, if we know businesses that are interested, are you looking to partner with new businesses, or it's mostly within government and larger, or yeah?
We are absolutely interested in doing that. Our only concern would be we don't want businesses to exploit the free 6 months and not have an opportunity to pick our guys up full time.
Yeah,
So
that's great. Sure.
And to chime in there, I'll put a link in the chat. We have a form on our website for businesses that are, maybe not ready to commit, but are interested in learning a little bit more about what that partnership might look like. It's an opportunity to sit down and chat with the Pathways team in a little more depth.
Great, thank you.
Dana, how are we doing on time? Is that it?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Now?
I would need to wrap up unless I can definitely take one more question if there are any. All good?
And I think if we can probably get this from your colleagues, if we can just get your contact info, if we do want to follow up later, if that's okay. Yeah.
I'll drop that in the
that
chat
would
as
be
well.
awesome. Thank you, Satara. And thank you everyone for having me. I'm definitely open for any follow-up that might be needed and always available. Again, I appreciate the time and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy.
So I can.
Tara, there was a
just
question
few
in
more
the
slides.
chat.
Oh,
if
okay.
people can get a copy of the slides later as well, if you all are open to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can send those out.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's great. And yeah, I'd like to also take a moment to recognize, the incident that you witnessed this week and the challenging nature of being present for an incident or being in any way kind of directly or indirectly impacted by a violent incident. Unfortunately, this is, we have a lot of neighbors who've had similar experiences. Our team is mourning the loss of a client that we lost Monday as well, who worked with some of our staff quite closely for the past year. And so it is, it's challenging, but it also kind of reiterates why it is so important that we're having these conversations and focused on this investments in this work across the district. So Dana walked through our programs briefly. I mentioned that none of our programs, as is the case with most agencies and kind of the public safety sector, none of our programs stopped during COVID. We figured out a way to pivot. In some cases, for example, our ONES Leadership Academy that was operating within the school system had to pivot pretty significantly when schools were figuring out what they were going to do towards the beginning of the pandemic. And so in a few places, we especially last spring and summer, we did some pivoting to provide some food support or kind of, essential services support for folks impacted by COVID. And know that there was also a lot of tremendous mutual aid work happening across the city focused on those efforts as well. And now that school, is obviously since the beginning of last year, school has kind of resumed that hybrid model, and now we are in schools part-time and then also supporting students remotely as they go through classes. Our Pathways program in particular, I just wanted to highlight kind of what we have been able to accomplish. In fall of 2019, we onboarded our fourth cohort. This cohort finished their classroom component right around the time that the pandemic began. And so we had to kind of pivot and figure out employment placements for that group, which was uniquely challenging. So they were pretty seriously impacted. We were expecting to have a new cohort starting in March of last year, and obviously that did not happen. So what we did instead was conduct a re-engagement cohort during the summer of 2020, and we brought in participants from cohorts 3 and 4 who we felt were affected by the pandemic and might need some supports to resume kind of stability or in either employment or just other personal needs. So we brought those members in last summer. And then we began another cohort in the fall of last year, began in classroom full time. And then as the COVID surge happened, moved to remote. So that ended up being hybrid as well. And then we also just had a cohort graduate this past May that began in March. We'll have another cohort start next fall. So the Pathways program has been chugging along and taking referrals from our violence intervention contractors, as well as some sister agencies or other district government partners. CSOSA provides some referrals for our Pathways program and continues to partner with us with the program. A lot of our participants who are enrolled in Pathways are under CSOSA supervision. And there are a lot of obligations, especially if you're under intensive supervision, that you have to meet. And so we want to be a unified front with our CSOSA partners to make sure that participants understand that we are trying to support them with all the obligations they need to meet, not just for our program, but for CSOSA as well. So CSOSA co-locates a PO within our office, which has been a really helpful partnership that lessens kind of, the burden on the participants themselves in terms of having to travel to appointments, et cetera. Pathways has been continuing, and we do receive referrals from Collaborative Solutions for Communities for open slots for that program. Our Family and Survivor Support Program, as Dana mentioned, received a record number of cases in FY20, unfortunately, and this team is providing a lot of referrals and services. The top referrals are the most common services that families and or next of kin request are housing referrals, if there is emergency housing relocation needed due to safety considerations, behavioral health, grief and loss support, mental health supports, burial assistance. For some folks, filling out their Crime Victims Compensation Program application is extremely complicated, and they need support and guidance on how to do that. And then some other touches that include candlelight vigil support, food supports, et cetera. So those are some of the top referrals there. And I mentioned our community-based crime reduction program was pivoting to provide some pandemic assistance to the communities it was serving. And so we've distributed a lot of meals since the beginning of the pandemic. We've hosted some COVID testing pop-up sites, connected families to clinical counseling and workforce development, and recently have also been supporting some canvassing efforts in terms of helping spread information about vaccination sites available across the city. I think that is really all I wanted to cover in terms of the slides. I know we have Keisha here, who is our program manager for violence intervention. So if anyone has any further questions about kind of the nature of violence intervention services, we'd be happy to chat through those. And yeah, just any questions for the group, and then I'll start getting those links in the chat now that I've stopped sharing.
So Tara, that last slide, I just want to take a minute and echo what Bob said earlier in terms of the good work that you all are doing, and just if we can just take a minute and celebrate the numbers that were on that slide and just all the different work that you all are doing, especially over the past year. It's really exciting to hear, and just thank you.
Thank you. I always pass back praise and encouragement when we have our all staff meetings on Mondays, because it's important for our staff to hear that. So thank you.
Yeah, it's sometimes not till you see the numbers where you're like, we did what? And it's quality over quantity for sure, but some of those numbers, it's just incredible as well. Okay, so yes, you're gonna drop some of those resources in the chat, which I think would be great. And then, yeah, would love to hear from Collaborative Solutions if is it Keisha is with us?
Sorry, trying to come off mute. Yes, Keisha is with, I'm here and I'm from ONES, but we do have our partners at Collaborative Solutions. Did you have any questions for me, or did you want to exchange any questions with CSC?
Sorry, I think I mixed you up with Letitia. I'm looking back at the notes here. So yeah, if any of the colleagues from CFC want to come off mute and share any of your recent successes or things that you're proud of, or anything you think we should know just as neighbors and community members on how we could better partner. Hey, Letitia.
Hey, some of the stuff that we have been working due to the COVID, we still are engaging with the individuals outside in the community. We have not stopped. We only stopped like for the first week that the COVID actually started back in March. We only stopped being outside for like 2 weeks. Then after that, we've been outside in the community. Some of the things that we have been really working on with our tier individual is making sure that we get all their vital records and making sure that we get their IDs, because a lot of our individuals that we work with, they really want to get employed and attend school. So some of the things that are the biggest challenge for them are the vital records and ID. We have been very successful in getting IDs for our tier individuals. A lot of them have an appointment. If not, they already obtained their IDs. So we are working on just employment services right now. We have a workforce class coming up June 7th that will, no, June 8th, my apologies. That we will give the chance for our community members who need employment support just to join that class, including our tiers individuals that we work with. We are planning different activities for the summer. What we were doing now is we're trying to create a monthly calendar with the events, and we're trying to get like flyers in advance so we can share it with our community partners, just to see how we could just support our communities better and see what events we could do to engage the community and the individuals in the community. We are planning different trips for our tiers just to also get them out the community, to show them a new environment in different areas, because they're used to being in their neighborhoods. So that's something that we also want to explore. Some of our tiers, they share with us that they want to do fishing. So that's something that we're trying to like really come up with a budget, and just we're trying to make it like a club thing, like every Wednesday take them fishing. So something that they could develop as a new habit. So those are some of the things that we are working on. And of course, we do respond to all the incidents that are in our priority area and see how we could either prevent retaliation or how we could prevent anything from happening.
I can just speak a little bit about a few activities that we did over the past couple of months. We did a Mom and Me paint activity. The goal is to ensure the parents that they are their child's first teacher and they learn first from them. So the goal is to pull the family together as we assist the youth and young adult in pulling them away from the gang. And we want them to hone in and be in touch with their families by creating weekly activities for the group as well as for the family. So we do brotherhood sessions weekly. We talk about character, we talk about integrity, accountability, to tell them and ensure the clients that they get the services they need through us by providing these weekly sessions every Wednesday in one neighborhood, every Tuesday in one neighborhood, to know that that's a safe place to come in and talk about whatever concerns you may have. So the goal is not only to assist the youth and young adults from coming out the corners, but to assist the families by providing resources through the continuum of CSC.
I saw a question in the chat about the shooting that took place on 14th Street last summer, and who is kind of most responsible for follow-up. That would definitely be our violence intervention contractors. One thing I did not mention, but some folks on this call may have heard about, is Building Blocks DC, which is a new gun violence prevention effort within the city that is working to kind of coordinate efforts across the city. That's being led by the gun violence prevention director, Director Harley Harper. And one of the things that they're looking at, so kind of speaking to that comment from, or question from you, Rose, is they're looking at blocks that have some of the highest rates of gun crime in the city, and taking kind of two targeted approach to those blocks. One is looking at kind of environmental considerations. So are there any environmental factors that can be addressed, whether or not it's security cameras, lighting, speed bumps, trash collection, or other kind of environmental features, and trying to kind of expedite those adjustments in that area. And then the second thing is also looking at some of the individuals that are involved in gun crime in those areas, and ensuring that there are services and supports for those. So at ones, we kind of refer to building blocks as like the cavalry, like they're kind of helping us fill in gaps and make service connections where we have ourselves encountered barriers or had difficulty. And so we're really excited about that effort, kind of bringing together all of the groups that are doing this work, who are on the forefront of this work across the city, and streamlining some efforts, and also bringing some kind of district-wide strategy at a 10,000-foot view together.
Thanks, Satara. That's really helpful. And going back to the colleagues from CSC, I mean, wow, you all are busy, and there's just so many exciting things happening in the community. And that's why I love these conversations, to just get up to speed and be able to kind of help spread the word about the work that you all are doing. And so if there are flyers or upcoming events over the summer or later this year that are open to the community, or that we could, spread the news about, would love to partner with you all on that. I love this weekly fishing group that's formed. Like that's really, really fun. Questions from neighbors, community partners for either ONCE or CSC? And who are the two other violence interrupter contractors that are supporting other wards?
So in wards 5 and 8, we have Far Southeast, Family Strengthening Collaborative. And then Ward 6 and 7, we have Training Grounds.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I'll just put a plug here for anybody who wants to, stay tuned on upcoming events. June is Gun Violence Awareness Month, and the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement is going to be having a lot of community events across the city. Different formats, some virtual, some in person, and we'd love to have you join them, particularly any events happening nearby to you. So I will plug our Instagram and Twitter in the chat, but we're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and we try to share community event flyers in advance. And we would love to have folks join us at them, especially as it's getting warm out and it's really nice to spend time outdoors. But there are a number of community events, kind of family engagement events. We have some training ones. There are two events in particular that I wanted to offer to your group to see if it's something you wanted to kind of take back and have a conversation and see if you'd be interested in. One is we have partnered with the hospital, one of the hospital-based intervention programs that's operating at MedStar, and they offer a training called Stop the Bleed. It's obviously a pretty downriver training in terms of prevention efforts, but it is still an important one. And so this training is to help folks get a certification and feel comfortable if they're ever in an emergency situation. Very similar to CPR training and AED training. You never know when you're going to be, I think the timing of this, you never know when you're going to be present at a critical incident. And so to have the skill set and the comfort to respond to that incident if you feel comfortable doing so. So if that's something that you would be interested in offering to your ANC, we can coordinate that with MedStar. And I know that there is also, I know you've been talking a lot about kind of alternatives to police, and the Office of Unified Communication, which manages the district's 311 service, is training some groups and doing a few training sessions. I think they're offered virtually as well on kind of how does 311 work? How do you put a ticket in for a broken stop sign, or for blight abatement, or whatever it may be. And so helping district residents know how to navigate the app, or if you choose to call over the phone, and kind of illuminating the number of services that you can request through 311.
Thanks. Those are really helpful to know about? We'd been talking about Narcan training. Maybe we like do a whole series. We'll do Stop the Bleed. We'll do Narcan. We'll do. Margaret, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question or comment for the group?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. I'm really blown away with I'm just feel like so lucky to be working with so many wonderful individuals and learning so much. So I had a couple questions about for CSC. Are there bilingual services offered?
Yes. So we actually serve families in Ward 1 in our family service department. And also we have 2 bilingual VIs. We have 1 bilingual VI, and I'm also bilingual. So we do not discriminate. We actually focus on Hispanics if need to be. And we could also give more information in our family service department also, because we do work with the entire family in Ward 1.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. And in terms of the kind of with the are there with like the job search programs, are there mental health needs brought into that kind of support system as well, if there are certain mental health concerns for the individuals?
I'll take that one. If someone has mental health issues or concerns when they come through our program, we do have a licensed therapist who can address some of those needs and make recommendations. They can refer them out depending on, the person and if they need meds and or if they are in a place or space where they need some additional assistance. We do have organizations that we partner with that we can refer the clients out. But our workforce development classes are 3-week classes. So if we notice something that's going on with the client, we'll make the referral, and then Brittany will do the assessment. And then from there, she'll make the referral or the recommendation for that client to come back into that class. But we do provide additional assistance as needed for those mental health issues.
Do you work with any groups that specialize in like substance abuse or alcohol abuse?
We do have a continuum, that we refer out. So we do have a partnering agencies that we work with. I don't have the list before me now. If you give me your contact information, I can give you that information.
I'd love to.
later.
That would be awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
And then, sorry, I had one last question.
No problem.
I don't think this. I think this one might be. It's in regards to the 311. With the alternative. So I actually it's a question for the group. Has anyone worked with the organization Guns Down Friday? Are they involved in any of these efforts? Just curious.
Once has partnered with a couple. There are a lot of really great organizations doing work. The Trigger Project, Guns Down Friday. So we've co-hosted a few events with them. I don't think we've done anything very recently though.
Yeah, I remember there was mention of like mutual aid, and I know a lot of the abolitionist community does mutual aid work, and that their Guns Down Friday is right there with them in a lot of the protests and mutual aid and all of that as well. So I was just curious, and thank you. It allows me to get my bearings, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm done.
No, Margaret, I think that's a good segue, because last month we had a great conversation with the DC Peace team. Eli alluded to this earlier on potential partnerships in the community. And so, Eli, I wonder if it would be helpful for once in CSC to just hear you for like a minute or two explain what the DC Peace team is, unless you all have already made that connection, because I think it's been really great to hear about what once in CSC are doing. So I just want to make sure that that connection's there.
Sure, thanks, Layla. So we've been around since about 2011, and we're kind of co-founded by a homecomer named Cortez McDaniel, who was with the National Homecomers Academy. He now works at the McKenna Center over by Union Station. We kind of focus on cultivating the habits and skills of nonviolence in our daily life, so our communities can become increasingly nonviolent and better able to resist injustice and build a more sustainable, just peace. So we've got 3 kind of program areas. One is a set of nonviolent skill training. So we do bystander intervention and de-escalation. Nonviolent communication is for like interpersonal conflict skills. Unarmed civilian protection is how to sort of deploy teams or groups to neighborhood events or political demonstrations, or even accompany public figures who are receiving death threats and so forth. And then the last training is around restorative circles. We do a lot of training in that area. And then the other two programs, the second one is actually deploying unarmed civilian protection teams. So we've done that with kind of a safe passage program with some of the homecomers a few years ago, walking kids to school. Many political demonstrations like the election demonstrations, Black Lives Matter demos, and so forth. And we've also, there was a woman running for Congress this past year from the Midwest who was getting a lot of death threats. So we helped put together an unarmed protection team for her for about 6 months from June through December or so of last year, and she made it into Congress. And then the last thing is restorative circles for lots of different groups will come to us, birth workers in DC, religious groups, and so forth. So with the ANC 1A here, we've been kind of meeting with a lot of local groups about kind of having a team that's available at Columbia Heights Plaza. We're kind of trying to figure out what are the right times and days to kind of get that going. We've talked to some of the guys who live there and they told us, you know, every morning somebody tries to fight them was their first thing that they said. So we're still trying to kind of gather info and see how we can be helpful and probably help, you know, offer some trainings to groups in that space that would like to kind of do that work as well. So yeah, that's kind of a short summary of our work, and we really look forward to helping imagine, you know, alternative community protection approaches.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I did not catch, I don't think, Eli, the actual name of the group. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, it's DC Peace Team.
Great, thank you.
And so I put a link to the website in the chat box.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks, Eli. Rose, I saw you put in the chat looking for a mental health contact for a neighbor woman who has this need. I think that refers back to our earlier conversation. So I'm not sure if anyone at Once or CSC can connect with you on that. I'm seeing some nodding from Satara. So.
Yes, I will send you, well, I'll just put a plug for an organization in DC, but also Rose, if you want to send me an email, I can follow up with you. One's partners with Community Wellness Ventures, which is a core service agency under the Department of Behavioral Health. They provide one-on-one therapy and group setting supports for our Pathways program. And they have also partnered with us over the past year on a pilot program that was offering incentivized cognitive behavioral therapy. They're just a really, really dynamic core service agency in the city, really terrific clinicians. I get everybody who participated in the program who I've been in contact with has called their clinicians angels, and they're continuing their work with them. And so I'm like to share their name wherever I go. If there are any other questions, feel free to email me, and I'll just put Community Wellness Ventures website in the chat. They have a referral form on their website if you'd like to refer someone, and you would probably have to have a conversation with them to get a little bit more background information, but there is an open referral form on their website.
Thanks so much. I meant to send that to a particular person, not to the whole group, and interrupt what was, you know, the trend. It is impressive, the amount of work that's being done. Thank you.
Judson, do you mind taking the lead here for a minute? I have someone at the door I need to just pop down and give something to. I will be right back.
Sure. I'm sorry, I'm having one of my neighbors is blaring Sheryl Crow, so I apologize if you hear that in the background. That's why I've been on mute. Sorry, is there Anything else we need to discuss that I've skipped over in terms of questions? You have thoughts?
I just am thinking a lot about backbone organizations and collective impact theory and the importance of people just bringing together all of these different agencies and organizations. So it's just amazing how much knowledge and relationships exist amongst all of us. And it's if somebody could just focus on connecting all of us and helping everyone communicate together, I could just imagine, it feels like we have enough resources. We live in an incredibly wealthy city, an incredibly knowledge wealthy city. So I'm always I just always think about how do we do that as a collective of people that care about these issues, or who does that?
Do you have any best practices for that? I agree with Bobby. It kind of seems like a lot of silos running. Margaret?
I know that's one of the initiatives that we're working on with DC Peace Team is kind of like going through all of the alternative to policing guides that we've collected and kind of identifying exactly what specific needs each of these organizations, like the times that they're open, what they actually will, if they're able to come to assess something, if they're able to provide housing resources, if they're able to provide immediate housing resources, and just kind of like, the list goes on and on, but kind of like defining those needs or defining those resources first, and then kind of working from there. So that's what we're doing. I don't know if that's helpful, but I feel like it's a start. It's not fun work, but it's the work that needs to be done.
There's the internet. That's what we came up with. So there is tools and best practices of backbone organizations. There's something to think about.
Margaret, I appreciate that update as well. I know we'd emailed about it, but like one of the things Bob had helped us with in the past was the DC version of the alternatives to policing and like giving that out to neighbors. And I'm sure it is updated from time to time, but like to have you all take a thoughtful look at it and literally go through like the resources that are listed there, talk to the organizations and understand like, is this actually who should be on here? Did any of this information change? And it sounds like even beyond the one pager, a bit of like a resource directory, but correct me if I'm wrong, but sounds like a database or directory. And Satara or Ali, just, you know, there are a few of you on from DC government, but just wondering if versions of that already exist as well.
I think there are many versions of that. I think maintaining them is one of the critical challenges. We have a few kind of directories within ones that are shared with our partners, but I think it's actually something that's come up a few times in relation to building blocks as kind of in their role of as coordinating a group focused on coordination, that this would be a helpful resource. I think that the challenge is sometimes they are focused on one area or another, and then they don't have quite everything you want. But then sometimes when they have everything you want, then it's a little bit overwhelming to navigate. So making sure navigation is kind of good depending on the number of users accessing it. One group that does have a very good kind of starting point with lots of resources is the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. They have a guide particularly for reentry services, and it features a lot of employment and training services in it as well that is really robust. What I'll do is I'll check back in with the team and see if there are any other kind of public ones that would be easy for members of the public to navigate, to share those links with you.
I was just thinking that's kind of what you all organized 2 years ago with Bob and CJ, you know, and we started kind of pulling so many groups together around public safety. Mm-hmm. That was like that in person. Maybe not written down as much, but I do think that in person stuff, because like, you know, and what we tried to do too in Councilmember Nadeau's office, there's so many services, there's so many pieces. I mean, all of these services, right, they're created from a build to a regulation to a, you know, they have to get funded, and then all of a sudden they become a real entity, right? And ONES is a great example of that, and what they've done. And keeping track of it can be hard, but you know, shameless plug here for oversight and budget hearings, because that's one way you can figure out what your government entities are doing, right? You can really look at and see the different pieces that they have and participate in the process.
So I think we'll probably want to wrap up here in the next 10 minutes or so, if folks are able to stay that long. And Margaret, did you have something? No? Okay. So I don't know if folks saw Robin's comment before she hopped off, but ANC 1D is made up of 5 commissioners. 1A, it's based on population density, right? So 1A, we're just lucky that we have 12 commissioners, 4 of whom are on with us tonight, which is just really great, and that we are able to have this space and have a committee, right? Like 1D doesn't, this is the first time that I've been part of the Public Safety Committee that I guess we've had 4C come before, but I do think there is this opportunity to like continue to build these connections, like across ANCs, across government entities, across neighborhoods. So I really appreciate folks coming out for that. Commissioner Morales, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know you had something you wanted to bring up tonight, and Bob actually mentioned it during his intro as well.
Yeah, so I had emailed Commissioner Bonneau yesterday after a separate committee meeting. We were discussing the Police Reform Commission at that meeting. So something I was thinking about in light of the current situation in Palestine, something that has been weighing heavy on my mind is I was aware that DC Police, so like Metro PD, had some sort of, and I don't know what the proper terminology here is, but they had some sort of arrangement where they would be trained with alongside or by the Israeli forces. So by the Israeli government was training a Metro Police Department, police officers and personnel. I know there's a coalition that's working to like stop that arrangement and kind of, you know, not have that be the case anymore. So my general inquiry was just around whether or not that was still in place, whether or not MP was still getting training from the Israeli government. In light of what's going on right now, I think it's very prudent that if it is, that we shine a light on that and also ask city council or in the mayor or whoever else would be in charge of that sort of decision making to review and preferably, you know, cease that sort of training arrangement between MPD and the Israeli government. So that was generally my general question. I think if it, yeah, like just kind of wrap it up, like Commissioner Bonneau was saying, like if you know that is something that is still, you know, in process, and then something that we should possibly look at, maybe not through this committee necessarily, or maybe through this committee primarily, but through some sort of avenue where we can really shine a light on that and really bring it to the spotlight, especially given what's going on geopolitically. I mean, DC is a very international city, so it doesn't look good on our police department to be receiving, you know, police training from a government that's committing human rights abuses on the daily. So that was just my inquiry, and I wanted to raise that. I didn't know if it would fit into the agenda for today's meeting, so I just kind of just like floated the idea to Commissioner Bonneau. But yeah, I'm happy for the opportunity to bring it up now.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. And Bob, yeah, Occupation Free DC, I had sent over to the Commissioner as well. Do you want to say anything about them? I know we've had a volunteer from their, or partner of theirs, come to these meetings maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. I'm messaging people now, Commissioner Dieter, to see if it is still going on. I can shoot you a note later on if I get a hold of somebody from the coalition. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. We need to talk about these things. And our budget. I mean, that was the other thing. I can't stress enough the need to defund the police. I know it's a little bit of a tangent of a conversation we're talking about, but I've been thinking about that woman who was shot down near Logan Circle. If you guys saw that, it was a mother and her 4-year-old, and they got in an argument over a scooter that was left in the street, like in the sidewalk, and the person like shot at this group of people. And in response, then obviously people say we need more police, but we never have enough police to be at every single incident between every single human across the district. So I don't know, I was just thinking about the importance of continuing to call for the defunding of the MPD. I think it's so easy after the guilty verdict of Derek Chauvin that everybody had this big sense of relief and things had changed. But even like the George Floyd Act is struggling to get through Congress, qualified immunity is not happening. So as a community and as an ANC that represents our community, yeah, what are different ways that you can continue to voice these calls? Something else I've been thinking a lot about.
And if I can just piggyback off what Bob is saying, I saw that Mayor Bowser was asked about the shooting, or she was giving some sort of comments on the shooting, and then she used that, like you were saying, Bob, as like justification for the need to increase police funding and the like, which I personally think is laughable that she would say that, considering that MPD was just recently caught for drag racing and crashing 2 police cars. So I think it's really laughable that the mayor is so out of touch with policing policy that she thinks this is just more justification for increasing police budgets. But
it's the same argument too, that is, if we don't have police, then we're going to have shootings and murders and assaults, and we have all of those things with the police. Like, we don't need to think about the hypothetical. We know what we have, and that's why, again, the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, CSC, the work you guys are doing is just so vital, and you're doing it with such limited resources of what you need. So I think it's just so important that we continue to talk about these things.
Yeah, and I saw.
Sorry, Eli. Margaret raised her hand if you want to go quickly, and then we can pop you.
Yeah, I just wanted to note there, in addition to that, I don't know if there was a local news article about kind of the police union stating that there were a decreased number of police, like that it was dangerously low. So and the police chief actually pushed back on it and said that the numbers are kind of in line with what we're expecting, like normal increase and decrease, but that we probably will be seeing record low numbers of police officers. But they're definitely priming the pump to kind of fearmonger the communities with like putting out this rhetoric. So I just wanted to put that out there, and yeah, yeah, I'm done speaking.
Eli?
Yeah, I guess I was just going to point to the link that was in the agenda from Mayor Bowser about this pilot project this summer for mental health, diverting some 911 calls to mental health specialists. And I'm curious if folks have been thinking much about, I'll give you an example. Like in San Francisco, they have a rapid response team that includes a mental health person, a social worker, and like a paramedic or something, right? And they have a van and they get certain calls and they kind of travel around the city and be available. And I'm kind of wondering what folks think about maybe including somebody who's trained in whether it be de-escalation or sort of a protection officer who's unarmed, that would be with like that kind of team, right? That could respond to a variety of conflicts in the community. It would be a pilot project, of course. You kind of see how it would play out, but just curious if there's any thoughts on that, or if there's been much conversation about that, maybe within DC Gov. I understand the mental health thing is the first step. It's kind of a pilot project this summer, but has there been some thinking about possibly expanding that to some other professional skill sets?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think we can, I don't know if anyone on this call can answer that, but we can try to follow up on it. And when CSC responds are you all accompanied by other like support systems or colleagues, or is it just like you all in the field? And sorry if that's a really basic question.
Right now, for violence interrupted, it's just us in the field. So for our priority areas, we have 2. However, something that we are looking is depending on the violence in our priority area. So if we have to add an additional VI in that area, that's what we would do. But right now it's only us, and we only have like 2 VIs in each area.
Although I will say to supplement Leticia, if I may, and Leticia and I talk all the time, so she can feel free to interrupt me if I'm off the mark here. But one of the reasons we're so lucky to have collaborative solutions for communities is that as an organization, they have a lot of other services, right? So when they're responding to violence, you know, they have the interrupters who are there to kind of, you know, talk to those directly affected, you know, the shooters or the shot at. But then there's obviously, as you know, a huge network of people around every shooting and a huge impact. Like family services are needed, mental health services are needed, communication is needed, and they have tools to address a lot of those pieces. It's not exactly, I don't think where you're going, Eli, but it could be integrated into that. I don't think it's a contradictory to where kind of what you were saying.
Commissioner Wood, do you want to say anything before you hop off?
No, just thank you all so much for this conversation and all the work you all do. It's always just like very, very inspiring, I guess, to see how many people kind of come pitch in very small ways to like make big impacts like this. And so thanks again, the DCP team, Office of Neighborhood Safety Engagement, really great. And it really, like, it means a lot to me, especially for my SMD, having the plaza with a large substance use issue happening within there. So it's really great.
Thanks, Commissioner. I know we're past the time I said we were going to end by, but Commissioner Clark, I know it can be hard to jump in on the phone, so just if you wanted to say anything.
Oh, yeah, sure. Thanks, Commissioner. Not too much. I'm just very hopeful that, you know, the work that's been started is continued, and I do wish we collaborate more. And I don't know, I think Bob maybe can help us. We formed the Peace Coalition a while back, just finding a way to put pressure on the right organizations to get the right funding where it's needed and really stop violence in our city. It just seems to be getting worse. The numbers that were shown by early on tonight were just, you know, all the cities around are having these problems, and we still have to figure out how to address them. I know it's not just a DC problem, but why are these cities having this problem, and how do we address it? So I appreciate everyone's continued work on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. It's on the agenda, but our June meeting continues to be the third Thursday of the month at 7. So we'll be back together June 17th. We're partnering with Commissioner Mukta Gorpade, who works on high school transitions and like post high school opportunities for youth. And so we will hopefully be hearing from a couple younger members of our community and probably a couple partner organizations with a focus on how do we support youth, especially over the summertime, to kind of get ahead of opportunities for, you know, crime or violence, and really making sure that our youth are supported. And more to come as we kind of finalize that. But if folks have ideas or thoughts on basically public safety and youth and that intersection, let me or Commissioner Wood know. And otherwise, thank you all so much.
Thanks, everyone.